What if I told you that the most important words Abraham Lincoln ever spoke were whispered when no one was listening? This isn't the version you'll find in history books. It's an imagined reflection of a man standing at the edge of history and his own fate. If stories of greatness move you, make sure to subscribe right now and comment unity if you believe that leadership is about more than power. Let's begin. April 11th, 1865. Just 2 days after the Civil War officially ended, President Abraham Lincoln stood near the second-floor window of the White House, preparing to deliver a speech to the crowd outside. The war was over, but peace had not yet arrived. As he looked out at the thousands waiting to hear him, he turned to his young aide and said quietly, "This isn't a victory speech, it's a test of our soul." The aide was confused. Lincoln continued, his voice heavy, "Anyone can fight a war. Few can forgive after it ends." Those words weren't recorded, but they were felt. He walked to the balcony, took a breath, and began what would be his final public address. In it, he spoke not of triumph, but of reconstruction, not of punishment, but of reconciliation. "Let us bind up the nation's wounds," he said, "with malice toward none, with charity for all." But what the crowd didn't know was that Lincoln had a feeling, a deep, quiet sense that he wouldn't live to see what came next. That night he sat in the dim light of his study and wrote in his journal just a few words. "If I am remembered, let it be not for how I led the war, but for how I dreamed the peace." The burden he carried wasn't just about victory. It was about healing a broken country. The Civil War had torn families apart, left cities in ashes, and buried hundreds of thousands. Lincoln knew winning a war was not the same as winning the future. He didn't want revenge. He wanted something harder, unity. And he was willing to pay the price for standing by that vision. Just 3 days later, he was gone. An assassin's bullet silenced his voice, but the whisper he left behind still echoes today, not in words carved on monuments, but in the idea that leadership isn't proven by how many enemies you defeat, but by how many people you choose to lift up, even when you don't have to. And that takes a different kind of strength. So I'll ask you this. If you had one final speech to give the world, would it be about what you conquered or what you healed? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story gave you something to think about, hit subscribe right now. Famous Stories is where we reimagine the voices of the world's greatest leaders and the moments that defined them. Remember, the world doesn't always need louder voices. Sometimes it needs stronger whispers.